My daughter-in-law handed me a coffee with a smile. The housekeeper accidentally bumped into me and whispered, "Do not drink it. Just trust me." I swapped the cups in secret with my daughter-in-law. 5 minutes later, she collapsed in front of me like a puppet without strings. The sound of her body hitting the marble floor of my office still haunts me at night. But it was not fear that I felt in that moment. It was pure rage. Cold rage. Because as I watched Valerie convulse, throwing up on the Persian rug I bought 30 years ago with my first big contract, I knew with absolute certainty that this woman had just tried to destroy me. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am 68 years old, and for 45 of them, I have built something that very few women of my generation achieved. A textile empire valued at $20 million. But let me take you back to that exact moment, to that Tuesday morning where everything changed. If this story is hooking you, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss any confessions like this one. Because what is coming, not even I saw it coming. It was 10 in the morning. The sun was streaming through the large windows of my office, illuminating the fabric samples I had spread out over the desk. Valerie had arrived by surprise with 2 cups of coffee, and that smile, that I was once believed was genuine. "Mother dear," she said to me with that honeyed voice that I now recognize as poison disguised as sweetness. "I brought you your favorite coffee, a cappuccino with cinnamon, just how you like it." She was wearing a burgundy tailored suit, stilettos, perfect makeup. Valerie was always beautiful, I admit it. But that morning there was something different in her eyes, a shine, a barely contained urgency. "What a lovely detail, honey," I replied, taking the cup between my hands. The aroma was exact, freshly ground, cinnamon creamy foam. I needed something just like this to concentrate. Today we sign the papers, I know. Her smile widened. "That is why I came. This is a very important day for everyone." I raised the cup toward my lips. The heat of the coffee grazed my skin. And then it happened. Martha. My housekeeper of a lifetime entered in a rush with a tray of documents. Too much of a rush, clumsily. She crashed against my desk with a loud bang that made the cups tremble. "Oh my God, forgive me, Mrs. Eleanor," she screamed, and in the sudden movement her elbow hit my hand. The coffee spilled over the papers. How clumsy I am, 1,000 apologies. But while she leaned in to clean the disaster, while Valerie stood up, annoyed from her chair, Martha brought her face close to mine for barely a second. Her lips almost did not move. "Do not drink it. Just trust me." My heart stopped. Martha is 61 years old. She has been working with me for 23 years. She saw Ryan grow up since he was 8 years old. Never ever had she given me a reason to doubt her. And her eyes in that moment were not lying. "Do not worry, Martha," I said with a calm that I did not feel. "Valerie, could you bring me some napkins from the restroom?" This spilled everywhere. Valerie hesitated. Her eyes went from me to her own intact cup on the desk. Then she nodded and left the office. 5 seconds. That was all I needed. I swapped the cups. Hers was now in front of me. Mine, the one I almost drank, waited in her place. When Valerie returned with the napkins, I was already cleaning the mess with Martha, acting as if nothing had happened. What a shame, I sighed. Now I will have to go down to the cafeteria to get myself another coffee. "No, no, Mom, take mine." Valerie pushed her cup toward me with a generous gesture. "I can order another one." "Are you sure, honey?" "Of course. You need to concentrate for the signing." I took the cup that had originally been mine. I drank slowly, watching her over the rim. Valerie waited exactly 3 seconds before lifting hers, the one she herself had prepared, the one she had brought specifically for me. She drank, and I counted. 1, 2, 3. At minute 4, her hand started to shake. At minute 5, the cup fell from her fingers. "Mom. Me." Her eyes opened wide. Panic, total confusion. "What?" She grabbed onto the desk. Her legs gave way, and she fell. The sound was horrible. dry, final. Martha ran toward her, acting out the worry perfectly. I stood up slowly, watching the convulsing body of my daughter-in-law on the floor. "Call 911." I screamed, but my voice sounded strangely distant in my own ears, because while I watched the foam coming out of her mouth, while her eyes rolled back, I could only think one thing. This woman just tried to drug me. This woman who had slept under my roof for 6 years, who had eaten at my table, whom I had hugged on the day of her wedding with my only son. This woman had wanted to leave me unconscious, to rob me of everything. The ambulance arrived in 8 minutes. The paramedics stabilized her. It was not a deadly poison. They would discover later. They were sedatives, enough to leave me asleep for 3 days, time more than sufficient to falsify documents, to take control of bank accounts, to destroy 45 years of my life with a simple forged signature. Ryan arrived running to the hospital, pale as death. "Mom, what happened?" I hugged him. My son. My only son. The boy I raised alone after his father died of a heart attack when he was barely 8 years old. The man who was now about to hand over everything to a viper who knew exactly how to coil herself around his neck. "I do not know, son." I lied smoothly, but thank God that Martha was there. Because in that moment, while I held my son who was trembling with fear for his wife, I made a decision. I was not going to just save my company. I was going to teach Valerie exactly who she had messed with. And what I did to her after, believe me that she never saw it coming. What did I really discover about my daughter-in-law? The truth was even worse than I imagined. Valerie entered our lives on a Thursday in April 6 years ago. I remember it perfectly because that day Ryan called me with an excitement I had not heard in his voice since he was a child. "Mom, I met someone special. I want you to meet her." She was 34 years old when I saw her for the first time. Brown hair wavy down to her shoulders, hazel eyes that knew exactly when to shine and when to get watery. She wore an ivory outfit, elegant but not ostentatious, calculatedly modest. "Mrs. Vance, it is an honor to meet you," she said, extending her hand with the exact pressure. "Neither weak nor dominant, perfect. Ryan has told me so much about you. A woman who built all this alone is truly inspiring." I should have seen it, that word alone, as if my success were a rarity, as if it were surprising that a woman could achieve it. But I was so happy to see Ryan in love that I ignored the signs. The first 2 years were a play worthy of an award. Valerie was the exemplary daughter-in-law. She arrived early to family dinners with dishes made especially for you, Mom. She remembered my birthday with personalized gifts. She called me just to chat once a week. I, naive me, thought I had found the daughter I never had. The wedding was in November at St. Patrick's Cathedral, 200 guests, a jazz band playing until 2 in the morning. I remember having danced with Valerie that night. She hugged me and whispered in my ear, "Thank you for accepting me into your family. I promise to take care of Ryan like you have done." Masterful liar. The 3rd year was when the seeds started. Small comments that in the moment seemed harmless. "Mom, have you not thought about resting a little? At your age, working so much must be exhausting. Ryan and I were thinking maybe we could help you more in the company. You have sacrificed so much. I read an article about businesswomen who do not know when to retire. How sad to end up like that, right?" Each comment was like a drop of acid. Alone it does not burn, but accumulated over months they corrode. And Ryan, my son, started to see me differently. I noticed it in how he asked me twice if I had taken my medicine, in how he repeated explanations about business decisions that I understood perfectly, in how he exchanged looks with Valerie when I spoke in family gatherings. Valerie was training him to see me as fragile, as senile, as a burden. The 4th and 5th years were worse. She no longer bothered to hide it so much with me, only in front of Ryan. One afternoon I arrived without warning at their house to bring them freshly baked pastries. Valerie opened the door in a robe with her hair gathered carelessly. For a second, before recognizing me, her face showed pure annoyance. "Oh, Mom." What a surprise. The smile returned like a mask. I was just resting. But I saw over her shoulder papers spread out on the dining table, company documents, financial statements that she did not have authorization to have. Working on something, I asked casually, "Oh no, Ryan asked me to review some things. I studied administration. Can I help?" Her eyes challenged me to question, to show distrust, to seem like the controlling mother-in-law. I swallowed the discomfort. I gave her the pastries. I left. That was my mistake. I should have acted then. 6 months ago, Valerie convinced Ryan of something I never thought possible, that I needed professional help for my mental health. Mom, my son, told me one Sunday after lunch with Valerie sitting by his side in my own living room, "We are worried about you. Worried you have been forgetting things, repeating stories. The other day you confused the name of the accountant. Lie, all lies." But he said it with so much conviction that for a moment I questioned myself. "Ryan is right, Mom." Valerie intervened with a silky voice. "We have noticed small changes, nothing serious, just typical of age. Why do you not visit a specialist for your peace of mind?" That night I cried for the first time in 20 years. Alone in my bedroom looking at the photos of when Ryan was little, I asked myself if I was losing my mind, if I was really failing and did not realize it. But then I remembered something. My mind was a steel trap. I remembered every contract, every number, every name of my 200 employees. In the board meetings, men 30 years younger feared me because I never forgot a fact. I was not losing my head. They were making me believe that I was. And Valerie was the architect of that psychological demolition. I investigated on my own. I hired an independent accountant to review the movements of Ryan's joint accounts. I discovered small but constant withdrawals, $50 here, $100 there. In 6 months, Valerie had taken out nearly $10,000, money that Ryan earned working in my company, money that disappeared without explanation. I confronted my son. He called me suspicious. Valerie cried. She said that money was for fertility treatments that she was embarrassed to mention. Ryan defended her with a ferocity that broke my soul. Why can you not trust her, Mom? Why do you always have to control everything? Those words were spoken by my son, the boy I breastfed, whom I took to school every day, whom I hugged when he cried for his dead father. Valerie had managed to turn him against me, and her mistake, her only mistake in this entire perfect plan, was thinking that no one else was loyal to me. She underestimated Martha because while Valerie built her empire of lies from above, Martha observed everything from below, from that invisible place where domestic workers labor. That space that privileged people forget exists. Martha saw, listened, kept. And when Valerie brought that poisoned coffee to my office, Martha already knew exactly what to do. Because a week before, my faithful employee had heard something that changed everything. A phone conversation that Valerie did not know someone was listening to. And what Martha discovered, not even in my worst nightmares would I have imagined. Martha Lewis is 61 years old and has hands that tell stories. Hands weathered by 3 decades of washing clothes, preparing meals, scrubbing floors. Hands that held Ryan when he was a child and cried for his dead father. Hands that prepared chamomile tea for me every time the stress of the company robbed me of sleep. Hands that saved my life. People do not see the housekeepers. For Valerie, Martha was just another piece of furniture, an object that served coffee and collected plates. Someone without education, without importance, without the capacity to understand important conversations. That was her fatal mistake, because Martha understood everything, and she kept it like someone who keeps diamonds in an old sock, waiting for the exact moment to reveal her treasure. It all began on a Tuesday afternoon, 7 days before the coffee incident. Martha was in the kitchen of Ryan and Valerie's house preparing the meal as she did 3 times a week. Valerie thought she was alone in the living room. The ceiling fan was making noise. The television was on the news channel, the perfect scenario for a private call. "It is all ready, my love," Martha heard Valerie say. Her voice sounded different. It purred. "The old woman will sign next Tuesday. I have everything prepared." Martha stopped chopping onions. She stayed completely still. "No, Frank, listen to me. I will give her the sedative in the coffee. With the dose you calculated, she will be out for at least 72 hours. A pause. Valerie laughed, a laugh that Martha had never heard from her. Cruel, triumphant. "Ryan already signed the papers you gave him. The idiot trusts you as his lawyer. He suspects nothing." The knife almost fell from Martha's hands. "The sooner we have control of the accounts, the sooner we can sell. The Chinese buyers are waiting." Another pause. $2.5 million, Frank. Imagine everything we will do with that. You get divorced, I get rid of Ryan, and we go live like kings in the Bahamas. Martha felt the floor move beneath her feet, but she made no noise. She did not move. She kept listening with her heart pounding in her ears. The perfect tool was making him believe his mother is senile. Now he himself wants to get her out of the company. Poor thing. So manipulable. The contempt in her voice was pure acid. His mother built an empire, but the son is a complete useless fool. He only serves to sign where I tell him. When Valerie hung up, Martha had tears running down her cheeks, but not of sadness, of rage. That night she did not sleep. She waited until 3 in the morning and called my house. Mrs. Eleanor, her voice was trembling. "I need to speak with you. It is urgent, but not over the phone." We met the next day at a diner far from downtown where no one knew us. Martha arrived with a worn cloth bag. She put it on the table with shaking hands. "I have been keeping this for months," she told me, "because I knew something was not right. But I had no proof, only intuition." She opened the bag. Inside there was a cheap school notebook. Pages full of tight handwriting dates, times, conversations noted word for word. "I started writing everything a year ago," Martha explained. "Every time Mrs. Valerie said something strange. Every time you left their house and she went through your things. Every time that man Frank called." My breathing stopped. Frank the lawyer. He claims to be Mr. Ryan's friend, but he comes to the house when Mr. Ryan is not there. They kiss. They do things. Martha lowered her gaze, ashamed. "I am sorry, Mrs. Eleanor. I did not want to snoop, but do not apologize." I took her hand across the table. "Go on. She told me everything." The secret visits of Frank Miller, the calls at midnight, the documents Valerie hid in a drawer in her closet behind the scarves she never used. I took them out one night and took photos of them with my phone. Martha took out an old cell phone, one of those with buttons. I do not know if they work, but they are here. The photos were blurry, but legible. Stock transfer documents, contracts prepared by Frank Miller, everything ready to be executed as soon as I signed the cession of my company to Ryan. The plan was perfect. On paper, I would give everything to my son. But immediately after, Ryan would transfer 60% to a shell company controlled by Valerie and Frank. But this is not all. Martha took out her phone again. After listening to her yesterday, I started to... She pressed play. Valerie's voice filled the space between us. "The old woman will sign next Tuesday. I have everything prepared." I listened to the complete conversation. Every word was a stab wound. When it ended, I stayed staring at the cold coffee in my cup. My hands were shaking so much I had to let go of it. Why, I whispered, "Why are you helping me like this?" Martha looked at me with those tired eyes that have seen too much. "Because you gave me a job when my husband abandoned me and my 3 children. I was 38 years old, without an education, without references. No one wanted to hire me." Her voice broke. "You paid me more than what was fair. You gave me a double Christmas bonus when my son needed surgery. You lent me money without interest when we lost our house in the flood, and never ever did you make me feel less for being a housekeeper." The tears ran down my face. "You raised Mr. Ryan to be good," Martha continued. But that woman poisoned him, and I am not going to allow her to take what you built with your own hands." We hugged in that diner until the waitress looked at us uncomfortably. During the following 6 days, Martha became my spy. She recorded 3 more conversations. She photographed another 22 documents. She informed me of every movement Valerie made. Today she went to the bank. She asked about procedures for large transfers. Frank came again. They spent 2 hours reviewing papers in the bedroom. Mrs. Valerie bought plane tickets to the Bahamas for 2 weeks from now. 2 tickets. She did not say anything to Mr. Ryan. Each message from Martha was another piece of the puzzle. And when I finally put the complete image together, I understood that I was not facing just an ambitious daughter-in-law. I was facing a professional criminal. Frank Miller was not just her lover. He was her criminal partner. And Valerie was not who she claimed to be. Because when I hired a private investigator, we discovered something that left me breathless. Valerie did not have that name, another life, and a secret that not even Ryan imagined. Ryan was born in August, a baby of 8 pounds with his father's eyes and my upturned nose. He was 8 years old when his dad died. Massive heart attack while driving back from work, a red light, a pain in the chest, and he was gone. I remember having told Ryan that night, "Now it is you and me against the world's son, and we are going to get through this." We did. He finished college with honors. He graduated in business administration. He started working with me at Vance Textiles when he was 23 years old, starting from the bottom like any employee. For 19 years, we were the perfect team. I managed strategy and relationships. He supervised operations. I trusted him with my eyes closed, until Valerie arrived and blindfolded his. My son is 42 years old now. He is still handsome, with that dark hair that is barely starting to have gray at the temples. Tall, good manners. A man that any mother would be proud to present, but weak. My God, so terribly weak. And Valerie saw that weakness like a shark smells blood in the water. She wrapped him up with surgical precision. First it was the sex. Ryan confessed it to me once during a dinner, half embarrassed, half bragging. "Mom, I had never met anyone like her. She is intense." Then came the manufactured admiration. Valerie treated him like the king of his castle. My husband, the successful businessman, she would say in front of friends. "The smartest man I know." She fed his ego until inflating it like a balloon. And when a balloon is too inflated, any pinprick bursts it. The pinprick was me. Valerie started subtly. "Love, do you not think your mom works too much for her age? Have you noticed that lately she gets confused with names? I saw a documentary about Alzheimer's. Sometimes it starts like that with small forgetfulness." Ryan started to look at me differently with a mixture of pity and worry that turned my stomach. One afternoon 3 months ago, we were in a board meeting. I was explaining the new contract with a hotel chain in Miami. 50,000 pieces of bedding, $400,000. I mentioned the name of the purchasing manager. "Richard Mendez is very interested in our Egyptian cotton sheets." Ryan interrupted me in front of everyone. "Mom, the manager, is named Robert. Robert Mendez." I froze. He was right. I had said Richard instead of Robert. A simple mistake, the type of confusion any person has when handling 50 contacts at the same time. But the way Ryan said it, as if he were confirming a diagnosis. I saw Valerie in the corner of the room smiling. Barely. Like someone watching their plan work perfectly. That night, Ryan arrived at my house without warning. "Mom, we need to talk." We sat on the terrace. The smell of jasmine filled the air. The city lights flickered in the distance. And my son told me the words that still burn me inside. "I think you should see a geriatrician." The silence that followed was so heavy I could feel it in my bones. "A geriatrician," I repeated slowly. "It is just a checkup, Mom. Valerie knows a very good one. Dr. Stevens. Just to rule things out, you know. He could not look me in the eyes. Things related to memory. Things related to memory." My voice sounded dangerously calm. Ryan. I manage a $20 million company. I remember every contract, every number, every decision I have made in 45 years. Yes, but lately he rubbed his face. That mistake with the manager's name. Last week you forgot we had a meeting with the suppliers. And Valerie says that sometimes you repeat the same stories. Valerie says the words came out like knives. And what do you say, Ryan? You who have known me since you were born. Do you believe I am losing my mind? There was a moment, a second, where I saw doubt in his eyes, and that doubt split me in two. I just want the best for you, Mom. His voice softened. You have worked so hard, you deserve to rest, and if there is something medical, it is better to know soon. I got up, went into the house, locked myself in my bedroom, and there, in front of the mirror where I have watched myself age for almost 7 decades, I cried. Not because of Ryan's words, but because I saw what Valerie had achieved. She had turned my son into her perfect tool. A weapon that did not even know it was being used to destroy me. I remembered when Ryan was 15. He had just failed a math exam. He came home devastated, thinking he was a failure. My son, I told him, while making hot chocolate in this very kitchen. Falling does not make you weak, staying on the ground does. We Vances always get up. He hugged me, crying. I promise to make you feel proud, Mom. I am always going to take care of you, like you take care of me. That boy had become a man who doubted my sanity because a woman whispered poison into his pillow every night. The following days were a silent nightmare. Ryan treated me as if I were made of glass. He explained things that I understood perfectly. He asked me twice if I had eaten, if I had taken my vitamins. Valerie had trained him to see me as fragile as terminal, as something that needed to be handled with care before being stored on a shelf. And the worst was discovering, thanks to Martha, that Ryan had already signed documents prepared by Frank Miller, documents that gave Valerie legal power over medical decisions in case I was declared incompetent. My own son had signed my business death sentence without even reading it completely, because Frank was his friend, his trusted legal advisor. Another mistake. Another perfect manipulation. The night before the coffee incident, I could not sleep. I sat in the living room with a glass of red wine and looked at the photographs on the wall. Ryan at 5 with his first school uniform. Ryan at 12 holding his first soccer trophy. Ryan at 25 the day he signed his first important contract in the company. In all the photos, I was by his side, smiling, proud, present. At what moment did I stop being his hero to become his burden? And then I understood. I was not going to save just my company. I was going to save my son, even if that meant breaking his heart first. Because what I was about to do would destroy him, but it was the only way to open his eyes. Valerie had been in the hospital for 4 hours when Martha arrived at my house. It was 11 at night. The full moon illuminated my garden. I was sitting on the terrace with a cup of tea I had not tasted, looking at nothing. The doorbell rang. Martha entered with that cloth bag I already knew too well. Mrs. Eleanor, I brought everything. We sat in my study. She emptied the bag onto my mahogany desk, the same one where I signed my first contract 45 years ago. And there was my revenge served in documents, photographs, and recordings. 47 photographs of documents. I counted them one by one. Forged contracts with my signature practiced in the margins. Stock transfers prepared. Power of attorney documents drafted by Frank Miller. Everything dated to be executed the day after the official signing. 12 audio recordings. Valerie's voice planning my destruction in pornographic detail. The old woman will not know what hit her. Ryan is so easy to handle. When we have the money, I leave him with nothing. Bank statements that Martha had photographed from Valerie's computer. Withdrawals from the joint accounts with Ryan. Small, constant-like ants carrying away a picnic. In total, $120,000 missing in a year and a half. Money that Valerie used to pay her gambling debts. Because yes, my private investigator Stephen discovered that too. My daughter-in-law bet in underground casinos. She lost. She borrowed from dangerous people. and she used my son's money to pay. But the worst were the text messages. Martha had managed to photograph Valerie's phone one night while she slept. The woman did not even use a password, so sure she was of her absolute control. The messages with Frank were explicit, not only sexual, strategically cruel. I am almost done with this. 2 more weeks and the old woman will be out of the way. Ryan signed everything. The idiot trusts you completely. It even made me laugh. When we have the money, I leave him. Let him keep his memories of Mommy. We will be in the Bahamas spending her millions. I read every message. Every word was a hammer blow to the chest. And then I reached the last one, the one Valerie sent to Frank 3 days before the coffee incident. I already got the sedatives, enough to leave her asleep a week if necessary, and if something goes wrong, well, at her age, a cardiac arrest would not surprise anyone. I stayed staring at those words until they became blurry. If something goes wrong, a cardiac arrest would not surprise anyone. They did not just want to rob me, they were prepared to kill me if necessary. Mrs. Eleanor Martha's voice brought me out of the shock. With this, we can go to the police right now. They have everything. Attempted fraud, conspiracy, attempted homicide. She was right. One call and Valerie would spend years in prison. But then I thought about Ryan. My son was in that hospital right now holding that woman's hand, praying for her recovery, believing she had suffered a terrible allergic reaction, loving her with every fiber of his deceived being. If I called the police in this moment, Ryan would find out everything in front of doctors, nurses, police officers. The humiliation would be public, total. His wife arrested, his marriage exposed as a fraud, his role as a useful fool exhibited for the whole world to see. That would destroy him. And as much as Valerie deserved to rot in a cell, Ryan did not deserve that kind of public shame. No, I said finally. We are not going to the police. Not yet. Martha looked at me confused. But why? We have everything to sink her. Because if I sink her, I sink my son too. I stood up, walked toward the window. Ryan has to discover the truth, but in a way that hurts him less, in a way that wakes him up without destroying him completely. And how do you plan to do that? I turned toward Martha. And for the first time in days, I smiled. I am going to play her same game. I am going to let Valerie believe she won. I am going to sign those documents she wants so much. I am going to hand her my company on a silver platter. What? Martha went pale. Mrs. Eleanor, no. Wait, I raised my hand. I am going to give her exactly what she wants. But what she does not know is that I am going to empty the company first. I am going to move every dollar, every asset, every contract to a place where she cannot touch it. I will give her an empty shell. The idea took shape while I spoke. Perfect surgical fare. And when she and Frank try to sell my company to those non-existent Chinese buyers, I continued. When they discover there is nothing to sell, when the house of cards collapses, I will be there. With all this proof, not to put her in jail immediately, but to show Ryan with irrefutable evidence who his wife really is. Martha was beginning to understand. You will let her reveal herself. Exactly. Ryan will not believe me if I tell him. He will see me as the jealous mother-in-law, the controlling mother. But if he discovers it by himself, if he sees the recordings, reads, the messages, understands that he was used. I closed my eyes. Then he will learn. Painfully, but he will learn. That night I did not sleep. I called Stephen, my investigator. I called Morris Landers, my lawyer of 30 years. I explained my plan. Morris whistled on the other end of the line. Eleanor, it is brilliant but risky. Everything in this life is risky, Morris. The difference is who controls the risk. The next day, very early, I got ready with care. Pearl-colored dress, soft makeup, gardenia perfume, the perfect outfit of a worried mother-in-law. I bought a bouquet of white roses on the way. And I went to the hospital. Valerie was awake, pale, confused. The doctors had pumped her stomach. They found the sedatives in her system. She invented a story about sleeping pills she took by mistake. I entered her room with tears in my eyes. Honey, what a scare you gave us. And I started to act the most important play of my life. Valerie looked at me from the hospital bed like someone seeing a ghost. Her hazel eyes, normally calculating, and cold, showed pure panic because she knew what she had put in that coffee. She knew that I should be unconscious in a hospital bed, not standing in front of her with white roses. But she did not understand how her plan had failed. Mom. Her voice came out raspy. The intubation during the stomach pumping had hurt her throat. What? What happened? I sat in the chair next to her bed. I took her hand, the same hand that prepared my poisoned coffee. Oh, honey, you gave us a terrible scare. I squeezed her fingers with manufactured maternal tenderness. The doctors said it was a reaction to your sleeping pills. Why did you not tell us you were taking them? I saw the exact moment she processed the information, her brain working fast, adjusting the story. I did not want to worry you guys. Her eyes filled with fake tears. I admired her skill. Even drugged and confused, she kept acting. I have been stressed. I do not sleep well. The doctor prescribed them to me months ago. What doctor, my love? I asked with genuine worry in my voice. She hesitated barely half a second. Dr. Ramirez, from the clinic in Midtown. Lie. Stephen would verify later. There was no Dr. Ramirez in any clinic in Midtown. Ryan entered at that moment. He had spilled coffee on his shirt, 2-day beard, red eyes from not sleeping. My poor son had stayed all night at the hospital. Mom. He hugged me tight. Thank you for coming. Where else would I be my son? She is my daughter-in-law. Valerie watched us trying to understand. Her plan had been perfect. The coffee, the sedatives, the exact dose Frank calculated. What had gone wrong, I stayed at the hospital for 3 hours. I acted the perfect mother-in-law. I brought homemade chicken soup that Martha prepared. I adjusted Valerie's pillows. I caressed her hair while Ryan went out to talk to doctors. How do you really feel? I asked her when we were alone. Her eyes searched mine, trying to read, trying to see if I knew something. Confused, she admitted. I do not remember well what happened. I drank the coffee and then everything went black. It was my coffee, I said softly. Martha spilled it by accident. You gave me yours. I saw her go even paler under the white hospital sheets. It was very generous of you, honey, sharing your coffee with me. I smiled. Good thing I did not drink it. Who knows what would have happened? The message was clear. She understood it. Her fingers grabbed onto the sheets, but she could not say anything, not without confessing everything. Rest, I told her, kissing her forehead. You will be home soon. I left that hospital knowing that I had planted the first seed of doubt in her mind. During the following 3 days, while Valerie recovered, my team worked without rest. Stephen, my investigator, was a man of 50-something years, ex-cop, discreet as a shadow. He handed me a manila envelope in my office at 10 at night on the second day. Mrs. Vance, this is more serious than we thought. I opened the envelope and my world caught fire. Valerie did not exist. Her real name was Valerie Sanchez, born in California. And yes, just as Stephen suspected, she had a record. She'd been married before, to a businessman from Nevada named Thomas Vila. She stole $200,000, emptying his accounts, and disappeared. Thomas never reported her out of shame. He preferred the silent divorce. But here was the interesting part. Legally, she was still married to him. Her marriage to Ryan was void, bigamy, a crime that could put her in jail for 6 years. Is there more? Stephen said, taking out another folder. The gambling debts. Valerie owed $250,000 to an underground casino in Brooklyn. Dangerous people. The type of people who do not accept excuses. That is why she needed the money urgently. It was not just ambition. It was survival. And Frank Miller, I asked. Stephen smiled with bitterness, corrupt lawyer with a history of fraud. They were erased 5 years ago with money. He is married to a woman named Patricia. 2 kids. They live in the suburbs. Of course, Frank was lying too. His plan was to get divorced as soon as he had the money from my company. The Chinese buyers, I asked, although I already knew the answer. They do not exist. Frank invented that story to convince Valerie. Actually, he has contacts with a group of Canadian investors who are interested in buying textile companies, but the real price would be $2 million, not $3 million. Frank planned to keep the difference. I laughed. I could not help it. Con artists scamming con artists. So Frank planned to rob Valerie too, I murmured. There is no honor among thieves, ma'am. That night, Morris and I locked ourselves in my office until 4 in the morning. We created a new company, Martha Textiles, LLC. Martha cried when she saw her name on the incorporation documents. Mrs. Eleanor, I cannot. Yes, you can, and you will, because I am going to transfer all assets there temporarily. You will be the legal owner until this ends. We transferred everything. The bank accounts, the contracts with hotels, the machinery, the intellectual property, the trademarks. Everything that was worth $20 million moved to the new company in 48 hours. Vance Textiles remained as a shell with only $45 in accounts and fake debts that Morris created strategically so that on paper it seemed that the company was worth much less than real. The day Valerie left the hospital, I had already finished my master play. Ryan took her home. I sent them flowers, a fruit basket, the perfect mother-in-law, and I waited. 2 days later, I received the call I was waiting for. Mom. Valerie's voice sounded sweet like poisoned honey. Is the signing still on for the transfer Ryan and I were thinking? Maybe this week. Of course, honey. In fact, I already have everything prepared. I smiled toward the phone. How about Thursday in my office at 10 in the morning? Perfect. We will be there. I hung up and looked out the window of my office. The city stretched out under the midday sun. 45 years building this empire. And I was about to give it to the woman who tried to destroy me. But she did not know that I was giving her a trap. And when I signed those documents, her countdown would begin. Thursday dawned with a completely clear sky. I woke up at 5 in the morning, not because of the alarm, but because my body knew it was the day. I made myself a coffee in the kitchen, the same one I have been drinking for 30 years. Black, no sugar, bitter as the lesson I was about to teach. Ruby arrived at 7. She brought fresh pastries and worried eyes. Are you sure about this, Mrs. Garrison? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. I dressed with care. A charcoal gray tailored suit and the pearl necklace my husband gave me on our 10th anniversary. Discreet earrings, flawless makeup. I wanted to look like what I am, a businesswoman who built an empire, not a victim. I arrived at my office at 8:30. Morris was already there. Resting on my desk were 2 sets of documents identical in appearance. One was real. It transferred 60% of Garrison Textiles to Ryan. The other was the trap. It transferred 60% of a company that no longer existed as an operating entity, a legal shell with no value. The notaries, I asked. The fake one will arrive at 9:45. He is an actor I hired. Morris smiled with sadness. He looks incredibly like the real notary. Fabian will never notice the difference until it is too late. And the real notary? He is waiting in my office with the actual documents, just in case you change your mind and want to proceed legally. I was not going to change my mind. At 9:30, Fabian arrived. Navy blue suit, leather briefcase, the smile of a used car salesman. He extended his hand to me with confidence. Mrs. Garrison, what a pleasure to see you. Ryan asked me to accompany them today as his legal advisor. It is good that you came, Fabian. It is always important to have everything in order. I shook his hand. I felt repulsion touching the skin of the man who planned to rob me. Coffee. "No, thank you. I already had breakfast." I wondered if Valerie had told him about the incident, if he knew that her coffee plan had failed. By his calmness, it was clear he did not. Valerie and Ryan arrived at 10 o'clock sharp. She was wearing a champagne-colored dress, elegant, discreet, the perfect outfit for a respectful daughter-in-law. But her eyes shined with barely contained triumph. Ryan hugged me. "Mom, thank you for doing this. I know it is not easy for you." "Nothing worth having is easy, son." I kissed his forehead. "But you are ready. I have known it for a long time." A white lie, but a necessary one. We sat around the boardroom table, the same one where I closed my first $1 million contract, the same one where I decided the future of 200 employees, the same one where I was now pretending to hand over everything. The fake notary arrived exactly at 10:15, calculated to appear professionally late. "Excuse the delay. The traffic on the interstate was terrible." Fabian examined him briefly. He noticed nothing. Why would he? He expected to see a notary, and he saw a notary. "Very well," the actor said with the bored tone of a civil servant. "Let us proceed with the transfer of shares of Garrison Textiles." He opened his briefcase. He took out the documents that Morris had prepared. 43 pages of legal language. "Mrs. Eleanor Garrison, do you confirm that you voluntarily transfer 60% of the shares of your company to your son, Ryan Garrison?" "I confirm it." My voice did not tremble. Not even a little. "Mr. Ryan Garrison, do you accept this transfer with full knowledge of the responsibilities it entails?" Ryan swallowed hard. "I accept." Valerie squeezed his hand. I saw her whisper something in his ear. "You are probably doing great love." "I need everyone present to sign as witnesses," the fake notary continued. Fabian signed first with that arrogant confidence of someone who thinks they have everything under control. Valerie signed second. I saw how her fingers trembled slightly over the pen. Emotion, anticipation, victory. Ryan signed third with a mixture of pride and nervousness that broke my heart, and I signed last. My name flowed onto the paper with the same firmness I have used for 45 years. Eleanor Garrison. Done. The notary stamped the documents with his fake seal. "The transfer is official. Congratulations, Mr. Garrison. You are now the majority owner of Garrison Textiles." Ryan looked at me with shining eyes. "Mom, I am proud of you, my son." And that part was true. I was proud of the man he could be once he woke up from this nightmare. I opened a bottle of champagne I had prepared. We poured glasses. We toasted. "To new beginnings," said Valerie, raising her glass with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "To family," added Ryan. "To the truth," I said, "which always comes to light." Fabian looked at me strangely for a second, but he let it pass. They left an hour later. Ryan radiant. Valerie triumphant, Fabian satisfied. When the door closed, Morris let out the air he had been holding. They did it. "Now begins the second part," I said, returning to my desk. "How long do you think it will take them to try to move the money with the urgency Valerie has for her debts? I would say less than 72 hours. I was right. 2 days later, a Friday morning, Stephen called me. "Valerie tried to access the main accounts of Garrison Textiles 20 minutes ago, and she discovered that there are only $40. I leaned back in my chair. I closed my eyes. I smiled. What did she do? She called Fabian screaming. I am listening to the recording now. She says that you tricked them, that you moved all the money, that the account is empty. And Fabian, he went into panic mode. He is yelling at her to check again, that it is impossible, that they just signed 2 days ago. The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. The documents they signed legally transferred 60% of Garrison Textiles, but Garrison Textiles no longer had assets. It was a shell. And the best part, all the asset movements had been completed 48 hours before the signature, completely legal, completely documented, I had not stolen anything. I had just reorganized my company. Stephen, I want you to keep recording everything. I am already doing it. Valerie just called someone else. It sounds like one of her creditors from the casino. This was going to get interesting. That afternoon, Valerie and Fabian arrived at my office without warning. They entered like a storm. Where is the money? Valerie was no longer acting. Her mask had fallen completely. What did you do with the company? I leaned back in my chair. I took a sip of coffee. I looked at them with absolute calm. Sit down. We have a lot to talk about. Valerie was shaking with fury. Her face, usually controlled and calculating, was red. Strands of hair had come out of her perfect bun. Her makeup was running at the corners of her eyes from tears of rage. Fabian slammed my office door shut. The sound resonated like a gunshot. Mrs. Garrison, this is fraud. His lawyer voice tried to sound threatening. Illegal transfer of assets. I can sue you for what exactly? I interrupted him with a calm voice. For moving the assets of my company 48 hours before signing any transfer. The documents are in order. Consult with any real lawyer. The word real made him turn pale. Where is my money? Valerie took a step toward my desk. Her hands gripped the edge. $4 million do not just disappear. You are right, they do not disappear. I stood up slowly. They move legally to another corporate structure, one that you two cannot touch. I saw the exact moment she understood. Her eyes widened. Her mouth formed a perfect O. You knew. Of course I knew. I walked to the window. The city stretched out under the afternoon sun. Did you really think I would not notice when my own daughter-in-law tries to drug me? Fabian took a step back. That cannot be proven. No. I took out my phone. I pressed play. Valerie's voice filled the office. I already got the sedatives, enough to keep her asleep for a week if necessary. And if something goes wrong, well, at her age, a cardiac arrest would not surprise anyone. The silence that followed was absolute. Valerie let herself fall into a chair. The color had disappeared from her face. I have 12 more recordings, I continued with a soft voice. 47 photographs of documents, bank statements that show how you stole $100,000 from my son's accounts. And something very interesting about your true identity, Valerie Sanchez. I used her real name like someone uses a knife. She looked up sharply, pure panic in those honey-colored eyes. How did I discover that you are still legally married to Thomas Wolfe from Las Vegas? How did I know about the $200,000 you stole from him? Or are you referring to how I discovered your gambling debts of $250,000 with people who do not accept excuses? Each word was a bullet, and I saw them impact. Fabian turned toward Valerie. Are you married to someone else? That was years ago. It means nothing. It means your marriage to Ryan is void. Fabian raised his voice. Bigamy, 6 years in prison. What did you get me into? And there it was, the moment I had been waiting for, the thieves turning on each other. What did I get you into? Valerie stood up suddenly. You who invented the thing about the Chinese buyers. You who planned to keep $1 million of the difference without telling me. Fabian went rigid. I do not know what you are talking about. The Canadian investors, Fabian. I know the real price is $2 million, not $3 million. Did you think I would not find out? I leaned against my desk, enjoying the show. Two snakes biting each other. Both of you are pathetic, I said finally. Planning to rob me. Planning to rob each other, and now you have nothing except enough evidence to put you in jail. Fabian recovered some composure. You cannot prove any of that in court. No, I smiled. Attempted fraud, conspiracy, falsification of documents prepared by a corrupt lawyer with an erased record. Ah, Fabian, does your wife Patricia know where you are right now? Do your 2 children know that Daddy planned to abandon them for stolen money? I saw him swallow hard. "Here is what is going to happen," I continued. "You are going to leave my office, you are going to wait, and you are going to pray that I decide to be merciful." "What do you want?" Valerie whispered. All her arrogance had disappeared. She was just a desperate woman with huge debts and a destroyed plan. "I want my son to know the truth, not from me, from you." "Never." Fabian shook his head. "Ryan believes us. He trusts us. For now." I walked closer to them. "But lies have short legs, and you two are about to trip." Valerie started to cry. Real tears this time, not acted. Tears of panic. "I have a week to pay those people from the casino," she sobbed. "They are going to kill me literally. It is not an exaggeration." "You should have thought about that before betting money you did not have. Please." She kneeled in front of me. "Help me. I will pay you back everything. I will sign whatever you want. I just need that money." The woman who planned to drug me, who called me the old hag, who used my son as a tool. Now she was on her knees begging. I felt nothing. Neither satisfaction nor pity. Only the cold recognition that this was justice. "Get up," I ordered. "I will not help you, but I will not call the police either, yet." "Why?" Fabian asked with suspicion. "Because first I want Ryan to see all of this with his own eyes." My phone rang at that moment. It was Stephen. "Mrs. Garrison Ryan just left a meeting with the bank. They denied him the credit he requested using the Garrison Textiles shares as collateral. Of course, because the shares were worth nothing without assets. He is coming toward your office," Stephen continued. "He arrives in 10 minutes. I looked at Valerie and Fabian. "You have 9 minutes to decide if you want to be here when my son arrives. If you are, you better prepare your explanations." Fabian took his briefcase. "I am leaving." "Coward." Valerie spat the words at him. "I am not the one who has debts with the mob." Fabian walked toward the door. He stopped and looked at me. "This does not end here, Mrs. Garrison." "You are right. It is just beginning." He left, slamming the door. Valerie stayed, sitting in that chair, destroyed. Her makeup running her dress wrinkled the mask completely fallen. "What are you going to do?" she asked with a small voice. "I am going to let the truth do its work. Ryan loves me. Ryan loves the woman you pretended to be, not who you really are." She stood up slowly. She walked toward the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle. "I really tried at the beginning," she murmured. "I tried to love him for real, but the money, the debts, everything went out of control. Decisions have consequences, Valerie, and yours are about to catch up with you." She left just as Ryan was entering the building, and what happened next changed everything forever. Ryan entered my office with the face of a man who just crashed into an invisible wall. He had a wrinkled shirt, loose tie, confused eyes, looking for answers he did not want to find. "Mom, the bank rejected the loan." His voice trembled. "They said that the Garrison Textiles shares do not have the value. I declared that the company is empty." I remained silent. I let the weight of those words settle in the space between us. "Mom," he insisted, "what is happening?" "Sit down, Ryan. I do not want to sit down. I want you to explain to me why the bank says my company is worth nothing." "Your company," I repeated softly. "When exactly did it become yours?" "A week ago. We signed the papers." "You were there?" "Yes, I was there." I stood up slowly from my desk. "But what you signed was the transfer of an empty shell because everything that is actually worth anything is no longer in Garrison Textiles." I saw him process the information, his brain working. And then the rage reached his eyes. "Did you trick me?" "No, son. I saved you." "Saved me?" His voice rose in volume. "You made me look like an idiot in front of the bank. Do you have any idea of the humiliation, less than the humiliation of discovering that your wife planned to steal everything from you and leave you in ruin?" The silence that followed was so dense it could be cut with scissors. "What did you say?" I took out my phone. I placed it on the desk. I pressed play. Valerie's voice filled the office again, but this time the words were different. Another recording, one that I had saved specifically for this moment. "Ryan is so easy to handle. I tell him to jump and he asks how high. Poor thing, so in love that he does not see anything beyond my legs." Laughter. Fabian's voice. "And when we have the money, I leave him obviously. Let him keep his memories of mommy. We will be in the Bahamas spending his millions." I saw how the color disappeared from Ryan's face. That cannot be. It is Valerie." My voice was soft but firm. "And there are 11 more recordings. Do you want to hear them all?" He let himself fall into the chair, his hands shaking. "No," he whispered. "This is a mistake. Valerie loves me. Valerie loves your money, or more specifically, my money that you were going to inherit. How did you get those recordings? Did you spy on me? Did you spy on my wife?" Ruby recorded them after listening to Valerie plan how to drug me to forge my signature. Ryan looked up sharply. "Drug you?" I told him everything. The coffee, the sedatives, how Ruby saved me by switching the cups, how Valerie ended up drinking her own poison. That is why she ended up in the hospital. He connected the pieces. It was not an allergic reaction. No, it was poetic justice. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture he had done since he was a child when he was overwhelmed. This makes no sense. Valerie and I, we are going to have children. We are planning our future. I took out another folder. I opened it in front of him. Because these are plane tickets to the Bahamas for 2 people, dated 2 weeks ago, in the name of Valerie Sanchez and Fabian. His fingers touched the documents as if they burned. You should also know that Valerie is already married, legally, with a man in Las Vegas named Thomas Wolfe. That is impossible. Her real name is Valerie Sanchez. She stole $200,000 from him and disappeared. Your marriage to her is void. Bigamy. Ryan stood up suddenly. The chair fell backward with a crash. "Enough!" he shouted. "That is enough. You are inventing all this because you never accepted her, because you cannot stand that I have someone who is not you." His words went through me like knives, but I kept my calm. "Do you think I invented the recordings, the documents, the plane tickets? Could I forge them? And the $100,000 that disappeared from your joint accounts in the last 18 months, did I invent that too?" He froze. "What? Check your bank statements, Ryan. Small withdrawals, constant, $50 here, $100 there. Valerie has been draining your money to pay her gambling debts." "Valerie does not gamble. Valerie owes $250,000 to an underground casino in Brooklyn. Dangerous people who threatened her with death if she does not pay this week." He took out his phone with trembling hands. He opened his banking app. He checked. Minutes passed while he swiped the screen, checking, verifying. His face was breaking down with every transaction he found. "I did not know," he murmured finally. "She said that money was for fertility treatments." "Another lie. Valerie cannot have children. She had her tubes tied 6 years ago before meeting you." That was the final blow. Ryan dropped the phone. He covered his face with his hands, and he cried. My son. My only son. Crying like the 8-year-old boy who lost his father. I got closer. I put my hand on his shoulder. He pulled away. "Do not touch me." His voice came out choked. I need to talk to her. She will explain to me." "Explain what to you exactly?" "How she plans to explain the recordings, the documents, her other marriage." "I do not know, Mom, but I need to hear it from her. I need to give her the chance to lie to you again." My voice hardened. "Ryan, wake up. She used you. She manipulated you. She turned your love into a weapon against yourself." He stood up, staggering. He picked up his phone from the floor. "I am going home. I am going to talk to my wife." She is not your wife. Legally, she never was. And when you arrive home, you will not find her because Valerie just ran away." Ryan left my office like a possessed man. He did not say goodbye to me. He did not turn to look at me. He just left with his shoulders tense and his fists clenched. I called Stephen immediately. "Follow him. Do not lose sight of him. And record everything you can." 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Mrs. Garrison, he just arrived at his house. He is entering now." I remained sitting in my office looking at the city through the window, waiting. I did not have to wait long. Stephen sent me an audio message 30 minutes later, Ryan's voice screaming Valerie's name, once, twice, 10 times, only silence answering. Then the video arrived, Ryan walking through his own house like a ghost opening closets. Valerie's closet was empty. Bare hangers, swaying drawers open with nothing inside, no clothes, no shoes, no jewelry. Everything that was hers had disappeared. Stephen's camera followed him to the bedroom. Ryan stopped in front of Valerie's vanity. On the mirror, a folded paper. He took it with trembling hands. He opened it. He read. I could not see what it said, but I saw how he crumbled, how his knees gave out, how he let himself fall to the floor holding that paper as if it were his death sentence. Stephen called me. "Ma'am, I think you should come." I arrived in 15 minutes. I drove faster than I had driven in years. The door of the house was open. I entered and found him exactly where Stephen had left him, on the floor of his bedroom, surrounded by evidence of a life that never really existed. Ryan. He did not answer. He only extended the paper to me. Valerie's handwriting was elegant, perfect cursive. Ryan. By the time you read this, I will be gone. There is no point explaining. Your mother is right about everything. I am sorry for having used you, but I needed the money. The debts are real. The people looking for me are real. I cannot stay. Do not look for me. Forget me, like I will forget this. V. She did not even have the decency to write her full name, just V. I knelt beside my son. I put my arm around his shoulders. This time he did not pull away. 6 years, he whispered. 6 years of my life. Everything was a lie. Not everything. Your feelings were real. Your love was real, but hers was not. He looked up at me, his eyes red, swollen. How did I not see it, Mom? How was I so blind? Because she was very good at lying, and you wanted to believe. He stood up slowly. He walked toward the empty closet. He ran his fingers over the hangers. She convinced me that you were senile, he said with a hollow voice. She made me doubt you. Doubt the woman who raised me alone, who sacrificed everything for me, and I believed you were crazy. You did not believe I was crazy. You were just confused. I suggested you see a geriatrician. He turned toward me. I thought you needed mental help. I signed documents giving Valerie power over medical decisions in case you were declared incompetent. She was going to declare you incompetent, Mom. She was going to take your own company from you because she convinced me it was best for you. Tears were flowing freely down his face now. Do you know what is the worst part? That part of me wanted to believe her, because it meant that I could be the hero, the son who saves his mother, the strong man who finally takes control. My ego was so big that I did not see how she was using me. I approached him. I took his face between my hands like I did when he was a child. Ryan, listen to me. You were manipulated by a professional. She had done this before. She knew exactly what buttons to push. But you saw it. Ruby saw it. Why didn't I? Because you were in love. And love, when it is genuine, trusts. It is not your fault for having loved. It is her fault for having betrayed that love. We stayed there in that bedroom that vaguely smelled of Valerie's perfume, surrounded by the evidence of a 6-year lie. Ryan finally pulled away. He started opening drawers looking for something, anything she might have left. He found an envelope in the nightstand drawer. He opened it. Inside were photographs. Valerie with Fabian. In restaurants, in hotels, at the beach. Dates that corresponded to business trips she supposedly took alone. There was also a notebook. Ryan opened it with shaking hands. It was a log. Every dollar she had stolen from his accounts, every lie she had told him, every moment she had tricked him, everything documented meticulously. "Why did she keep this?" asked Ryan, confused. "Why document her own crimes?" "Control," I answered. "People like Valerie need to keep a record. It gives them a sense of power, of having won a game." Ryan slammed the notebook shut. He threw it against the wall. "I loved her," he shouted. "I really loved her. I was going to have children with her. I was going to build a life. I know, son. No, Mom. You do not know." He turned toward me with burning eyes. "You do not know what it feels like to discover that the last 6 years were a performance, that every 'I love you' was a lie, that every time she touched me, she was thinking of another man, that when she smiled in the family photos, she was calculating how much she could steal from us." He was right. I did not know exactly how that felt, but I knew betrayal. I knew the pain of discovering that someone you trusted had used you. "Fabian," said Ryan suddenly. "Fabian is my friend. I have known him since college. He was the best man at my wedding." "He is not your friend. He never was." Ryan laughed, a bitter laugh, broken. "You know what is the most pathetic thing? That until the last moment, even when you showed me the proofs, part of me wanted to run here and have her tell me that everything was a misunderstanding, that she would hug me and tell me she loved me. That is because you are good, because your heart still believes in people." "My heart is an idiot." He let himself fall onto the bed he had shared with Valerie, the bed where she probably also was with Fabian. "What do I do now, Mom?" I sat next to him. I took his hand. "Now you get up like the Garrisons always do." "I do not know if I can." "Yes, you can, because although Valerie stole 6 years from you, she cannot steal your future, nor your dignity, nor your worth." We sat in silence, my son processing the complete collapse of his life, me holding him like I had held him when he was 8 and cried for his father. My phone vibrated, a message from Stephen. Valerie was seen at the airport, alone. She bought a last-minute ticket to Puerto Vallarta, leaves in 2 hours. I showed the message to Ryan. "Let her go," he said with a tired voice. "I am not going to let her go. But first, I need to know, do you want justice?" He looked me directly in the eyes, and in them I saw something I had not seen in years. Fire. "Yes, Mom, I want justice. And I want Fabian to pay too." I called Morris while Ryan washed his face in the bathroom. "How much time do you need to have everything ready?" 3 hours, maybe 4 if the judge is busy. "You have 2. Ryan came out of the bathroom with a wet face, his eyes still red but with new determination. "What are we going to do?" "We are going to give them exactly what they deserve. But I need you to be sure. Once we start this, there is no going back. I am sure." His voice did not tremble. "I want them to pay. Both of them." Stephen met us at Ryan's house 30 minutes later. He brought 2 suitcases. "Everything we need," he said, putting them on the dining table. "Recordings, photographs, bank documents, evidence of bigamy Fabian's history. Everything." Ryan opened one of the suitcases. His hands touched the documents like someone touching evidence of their own death. "There is more," continued Stephen. "Valerie is not going to Puerto Vallarta. That was a distraction. She bought another ticket to Detroit. Leaves in 90 minutes. And Fabian?" I asked. "Is he in his office?" "Packing. His secretary says he requested emergency vacation. 2 weeks. He also has a flight tonight." Of course the cowards fleeing in opposite directions. "Did they cancel the tickets to the Bahamas together?" asked Ryan. 3 hours ago, when they realized the plan collapsed, everyone decided to save themselves alone." Ryan chuckled without humor. Even in this, they betrayed each other. My phone rang. Morris. Eleanor, it is ready. The judge authorized the warrants. We have 2 patrol cars waiting for your instructions. Perfect. Send one to the airport, Terminal 2, Gate 47. Valerie Sanchez has a flight to Detroit that leaves at 7:20. The other to the Valley Corporate Building, 12th floor, offices of Fabian and Associates. The charges: for Valerie, attempted aggravated fraud, falsification of documents, bigamy, and theft. For Fabian, conspiracy to commit fraud, falsification of documents in the capacity of a lawyer and, I paused, illegal practice of the profession. Stephen found that his professional license was suspended 2 years ago for unethical conduct. He has been operating illegally. I heard Morris whistle on the other end. Those are years of prison for both. I know. Ryan was looking at me with a mixture of pain and dark satisfaction. Do you want to be present when they arrest them? I asked him. He thought for a moment. Then he shook his head. Not Valerie. I cannot see her now. But Fabian, his eyes hardened. Fabian I do want to see. We arrived at the Valley Corporate Building at 6:45 in the evening. The patrol car was already waiting in the parking lot. Discreet. 2 officers inside. Stephen had briefed them previously. We went up to the 12th floor. Ryan, me, Morris, and the 2 policemen. The offices of Fabian and Associates were in shadows. Only one light on at the back. Fabian's private office. The secretary had already left. We entered without announcing ourselves. Fabian was putting folders into a box. Documents piled up. His computer unplugged on the desk. The man preparing to disappear. He looked up when we entered. He saw Ryan first. Then me. Then the police. The color abandoned his face. Ryan! He tried to smile. What a surprise. I was just going to call you. I need to talk to you about... Shut up. Ryan's voice was pure ice. Do not say another word. Fabian closed his mouth. His eyes went to the police, to Morris, back to Ryan. I do not know what they told you. He tried again, but I can explain. Explain what? Ryan took a step forward. Explain how you slept with my wife, how you planned to steal my mother's company, or explain how you were going to rob Valerie, too, by keeping $1 million of the difference. Fabian blinked, looking for exits, calculating. Ryan, your mother brainwashed you. Valerie loves you. Just what? Just followed her? Just slept with your best friend's wife? Just drafted fraudulent documents? Just planned to rob a 68-year-old woman who never did anything to you? Fabian backed up until his back hit the desk. Ryan, please think about Patricia, about my children. And that was when I saw my son transform. Now you think about your family. Ryan laughed, a cold laugh that froze my blood. After planning to abandon them, I have the messages, Fabian, all of them, where you tell Valerie that you will leave your wife, that old fat woman I can no longer stand, as soon as you have the money. Fabian turned white as paper. I am going to personally make sure that Patricia receives copies of everything, every message, every photograph, every piece of evidence of your betrayal. And then I am going to make sure that every client you have knows that you have been practicing illegally for 2 years. That will destroy me. Good. Ryan took a step back. Officers, he is yours. The 2 policemen approached. One took out the handcuffs. Fabian, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, falsification of documents, and illegal practice of law. While they read him his rights, Fabian looked at me over the policeman's shoulder. This is your fault, he spat. You never wanted to let go of control. You never let Ryan be his own man. No, I answered calmly. This is your fault for being a thief and a traitor. Ryan was always his own man. He was just surrounded by snakes pretending to be family. The handcuffs closed on his wrists with a metallic click. My lawyer, Fabian started. You are a lawyer, Ryan interrupted. Or you were. Good luck defending yourself. They took him out of the office. His shouts of protest faded down the hallway. When the silence returned, Ryan let himself fall into Fabian's desk chair. He put his head between his hands. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No." His voice came out choked. "But I will be." Morris put a hand on my shoulder. "There is something else you should know. The casino where Valerie owed money. They pressed charges too. Gambling fraud, writing bad checks. That adds another 3 years to her sentence." "How much time will they face?" asked Ryan. "Valerie between 8 and 12 years. Fabian between 6 and 10, depending on the judge, and if they cooperate." Ryan nodded slowly. "Good." We stayed in that empty office until the sun set completely. Ryan looking at the city through the window, me sitting in silence, Morris reviewing documents. "Mom," said Ryan finally, "the company is still mine. For now. Then later. Later, when you are really ready, when you have learned to see the snakes before they bite you, we will talk." He turned toward me. "I deserve that." "Yes. But you also deserve another chance. Only this time you will earn it. Not because you are my son, but because you will prove that you can." He nodded, and in his eyes I saw something I had not seen in 6 years. Real respect. Not the one Valerie taught him to fake, but the true one. 3 months later, I woke up to the aroma of fresh coffee. Not just any coffee. Cinnamon pot coffee. The one Ruby has prepared since Ryan was a child. I went down to the kitchen, and there she was stirring the clay pot on the stove, humming an old country song. "Good morning, Mrs. Garrison." "Good morning, Ruby." I sat on the stool by the window. "Do you know what day it is today?" "Sentencing day." "Exactly." The judge would dictate the final sentence for Valerie and Fabian that afternoon. Morris had called me the night before with the details. Valerie faced 11 years in prison. The charges of bigamy, fraud, theft, and attempted poisoning had accumulated. The casino added 3 more years for the bad checks. Fabian received 8 years. He lost his professional license permanently. His wife Patricia sued him for divorce and kept everything. His children no longer spoke to him. I did not feel satisfaction hearing the numbers, only the quiet tiredness of someone who has closed a painful chapter. "Will Mr. Ryan come today?" asked Ruby, pouring the coffee into 2 cups. "Yes, he has an important presentation." Ryan had spent the last 3 months rebuilding himself. It was not easy. The first weeks were devastating. I found him crying in his old childhood bedroom more than once. He had nightmares, days where he did not want to get up. But little by little, he started to heal. He sold the house he shared with Valerie. He could not be there. Every corner was a reminder. He moved to a small apartment downtown. He started therapy with a psychologist specializing in trauma from manipulation. And he returned to the company, but differently. Not as a vice president with a gifted title, but as an employee in the operations department. Same salary as any area manager. No privileges. "I need to learn the business for real," he told me, "without shortcuts, without being treated differently for being your son." I let him. And I watched him. I saw him arrive early, stay late, ask questions he previously considered beneath him, learn from employees who had been in the company for 20 years, listen instead of talk. One afternoon, I found him in the warehouse helping to load boxes of fabric. "Ryan, you do not have to do physical labor." "I know, but I want to understand every part of the process." He wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Did you know that, Mr. Harvey has been running this warehouse for 32 years, and he knows every roll of fabric by texture, just by touching it. It is incredible." That was the Ryan I had raised, the one Valerie had buried under layers of inflated ego and empty ambition. At 3 in the afternoon, Ryan arrived at my office with a presentation under his arm. "Ready, Mom?" "Ready." We went down to the boardroom. The 5 main directors were waiting. Morris, too, and Ruby, who was now officially a shareholder of the company. Because yes, I kept my promise. Ruby received 5% of the shares, $200,000 in value. She deserved it more than anyone. When I gave her the signed papers, she cried for an hour. "Mrs. Garrison, this is too much. I only did the right thing." Exactly, and doing the right thing is worth more than all the university degrees in the world. Now Ruby attended the board meetings. At first she was terrified sitting in the farthest corner without speaking, but gradually she found her voice. It turned out that a woman who spent 30 years observing, listening, and understanding human dynamics had valuable insights about the business. "Gentlemen," Ryan began opening his presentation. "During the last 3 months, I have analyzed our operations. I identified 5 areas of improvement that could increase efficiency by 22% and reduce costs by 15%. He spent the next hour presenting, with data, with graphs, with concrete proposals. No ego, no pretension, just solid work. When he finished, the directors applauded. One of them, Mr. Albert, who had worked with my husband 40 years ago, stood up. "Ryan, this is excellent. Finally, I see your father's son in you." I saw how my son fought against the tears. After the meeting, Ryan and I stayed alone in my office. "You did well," I told him. "Thank you." He hesitated. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "Tell me." "These 3 months have been the hardest of my life. Losing Valerie, discovering the betrayal, facing my own stupidity." He took a deep breath. "But they have also been the most valuable, because finally I understand." "What do you understand?" "That I was never ready to run this company. Not because I was not capable, but because I had not suffered. I had not fallen. I did not know what it really costs to build something." He stood up. He walked to the window where I had stood so many times looking at this city. "You built this from scratch, alone. A widow at 32 with an 8-year-old boy. No help, no shortcuts. And I wanted to inherit it as if it were a birthday present, without earning it, without understanding it." "Ryan." "No, Mom, let me finish." He turned toward me. "I know I am still not ready. Maybe I will not be for years. But now I know what I did not know before. That true power does not come from the title. It comes from respect, and respect is earned with work, with integrity, with getting up every time you fall." I approached him. I put my hands on his shoulders. "Do you know what is the hardest thing about being a mother?" "What?" "Seeing your son suffer, being able to avoid it, and not doing it because you know that suffering is the only thing that will make him grow." His eyes filled with tears. "Did you know from the beginning that Valerie was going to destroy me?" "I did not know exactly what she would do, but I saw the signs. I saw how you changed. And yes, I could have intervened sooner. But then you would have never learned to see for yourself. It was brutal, I know, and I am sorry. But look at you now. You are the man I always knew you could be." We hugged, a long hug that healed months of pain. That night, Ruby, Ryan, and I had dinner together at my house. Beef stew, cornbread, sweet iced tea. "Let's toast," I said, raising my glass, "to the women who get up no matter how many times they want to knock 'em down. To the men who learn from their mistakes, and to the real family which is not always of blood but of loyalty." We clinked our glasses. Ryan smiled, the first genuine smile in months. "You know, Mom, I think Valerie did me a favor." "How?" "She took off the blindfold. She showed me who I really am when everything collapses, and I discovered that there is still something solid inside." Ruby wiped her tears with her apron. "You two are my family," she said with a broken voice. "More than blood, you are my heart." After dinner, I made coffee. The same coffee that almost cost me everything. I served it in 3 cups, and this time, when we drank, there was no poison. There was no betrayal, only the bitter and comforting taste of the truth. Because I learned something in these months. Life tests you constantly. It sends you snakes disguised as family. It offers you poisoned coffee with sweet smiles. It makes you doubt yourself when you most need to trust. But if you have your eyes open, if you listen to those who really love you, if you get up every time you fall, then the snakes reveal themselves. And when they do, you do not need violent revenge, only quiet justice. Valerie wanted to drug me to steal my life. She ended up drugging herself with her own ambition. Fabian wanted to use his intelligence to scam. Now he uses it to survive in prison. I did not need to destroy them. I only needed patience. Because the truth, sooner or later, always comes to light. Like that coffee I switched that morning. What you sow, you reap. If this story touched your heart, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between protecting someone you love and teaching them a hard lesson? Where are you watching us from? Like if you believe that dignity is worth more than any fortune. And subscribe for more stories of women who refuse to be victims. Because true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you do not allow them to take from you. The end.